Commander Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of the last human warship, the Defiant Hope, watching the massive shadow of the Carveth mothership block out the stars. His hands were steady on the railing, but his heart beat fast inside his chest. Around him, the crew worked in silence. They all knew what was coming. They all knew the odds. For 300 years, the Carveth had ruled this part of the galaxy. They were predators in every sense of the word. Standing over 8 feet tall, covered in scales that could stop bullets, with claws that could tear through metal, they had conquered hundreds of worlds. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They simply took what they wanted and killed anything that stood in their way. Earth had been found just 10 years ago. A Carveth scout ship had stumbled upon the small blue planet and had sent back images of its people. The Carveth overlord, a creature named Vorkith the Destroyer, had laughed when he saw the humans. Small, soft, weak. No claws, no scales, no natural weapons of any kind. They would make good slaves, he had decided, or good food. The invasion had begun 6 months later. It had not gone the way Vorkith expected. Humans, the Carveth discovered, were not like other prey. They did not run. They did not surrender. They fought back with weapons that seemed primitive at first but proved deadly in skilled hands. They set traps. They used tactics the Carveth had never seen before. They hid in cities and jungles and mountains and struck from the shadows. Most importantly, humans were not afraid to die. The Carveth lost more warriors in the first year of the Earth campaign than they had lost in the previous 50 years of conquest combined. Vorkith grew angry. He sent more ships, more soldiers. He burned cities from orbit and killed millions, but still the humans fought. Now, after 5 years of war, humanity was on the edge of extinction. Only a few million people remained, hidden in underground bunkers scattered across the planet. Their military had been reduced to a handful of ships and a few thousand soldiers. The Defiant Hope was the last warship capable of space travel. And Marcus Cole had just done something that no one in history had ever done before. He had challenged the Carveth overlord to single combat. "Commander," said Lieutenant Sarah Park, his second in command, "we have a response from the Carveth mothership." Marcus turned to face her. Sarah was young, barely 25, but she had already fought in more battles than most soldiers saw in a lifetime. Her face showed nothing but calm determination. "Put it on screen," Marcus said. The main view screen flickered to life, and there was Vorkith the Destroyer. He was enormous even by Carveth standards, his scales a deep red color that marked him as a member of the royal bloodline. His eyes were yellow and slitted like a snake's, and they burned with cold intelligence and cruel humor. "Human," Vorkith spoke, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to shake the ship, "you amuse me. You are the leader of these creatures, yes, the one they call Cole." "I am Commander Marcus Cole of Earth," Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady. "I have challenged you to single combat as stated in the ancient codes of the Carveth warrior tradition. Will you accept, or will you hide behind your armies like a coward?" A low growl came from Vorkith's throat. Around him, other Carveth warriors shifted uneasily. No one had ever called the overlord a coward before. At least, no one who had lived to speak of it. "You know our traditions," Vorkith said slowly. "That is unexpected. Tell me, little human, how do you know of the ancient codes?" "We studied you," Marcus said. "We learned everything we could about your people, your history, your culture, your weaknesses." "We have no weaknesses," Vorkith snarled. "Everyone has weaknesses," Marcus replied. "Yours is your pride. You cannot refuse my challenge without losing honor before your warriors. The ancient codes are clear. When a leader challenges another leader to single combat, the challenge must be answered." Silence fell over the Carveth bridge. Marcus could see the other warriors looking at each other. He had counted on this. The Carveth were ruled by strength and honor. If Vorkith refused the challenge, his own warriors might turn against him. "Very well, human," Vorkith finally said, his lips pulling back to reveal rows of sharp teeth. I accept your challenge. But when I kill you, and I will kill you, your people will belong to me. They will serve the Carveth until they are all dead. And if I win, Marcus said, your forces will leave Earth forever. You will declare our world off-limits to all Carveth. Those are my terms. Laughter erupted from the Carveth warriors. The sound was harsh and cruel, like rocks grinding together. Even Vorkith seemed amused. If you win, Vorkith repeated, shaking his massive head, you truly believe you have a chance against me. I have killed thousands in single combat. I have torn apart warriors twice your size with my bare hands. You are nothing but meat waiting to be eaten. Then accepting my terms should cost you nothing, Marcus said. Vorkith's eyes narrowed. You are clever for a human. Very well, I accept your terms. When you die, your world belongs to me. If by some miracle you defeat me, the Carveth will leave Earth forever. He leaned closer to the screen. We will meet in the arena on the neutral station of Corvus in 3 days. Do not be late, human. I am eager to see what color your blood is. The screen went dark. Marcus stood still for a long moment, staring at the blank screen. Then he turned to face his crew. They were all looking at him with a mixture of hope and fear. Sir, Sarah said quietly, with all due respect, are you insane? Vorkith is the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy. He has killed everything he has ever faced. How can you possibly beat him? Marcus smiled. It was not a happy smile. I probably cannot, he admitted. But I have to try. This is our only chance. Our armies are gone. Our cities are destroyed. We have nothing left except one thing that the Carveth do not understand. What is that, sir? Hope, Marcus said. The Carveth see us as prey. They see us as weak creatures who should have surrendered long ago. They do not understand why we keep fighting when we have already lost. But we fight because we believe in something greater than ourselves. We fight for our children, our future, our home. He walked toward the door of the bridge. Set course for Corvus Station. I have 3 days to prepare. I intend to use every second. Sarah watched him go, her heart heavy with worry. She had served under Commander Cole for 2 years. She had seen him fight against impossible odds. She had seen him pull victory from the jaws of defeat more times than she could count. But this was different. This was not a battle where tactics and strategy could turn the tide. This was one man against a monster, and deep in her heart, Sarah feared that she would never see Marcus Cole alive again. The defiant hope traveled through the darkness of space, its engines pushing at maximum speed toward Corvus Station. Inside his small cabin, Marcus Cole sat alone, studying everything humanity had learned about the Carveth over 5 years of war. The data files filled screen after screen. Battle reports, autopsy findings from dead Carveth warriors, intelligence gathered by brave spies who had given their lives to learn the enemy's secrets. Marcus read it all, looking for any weakness he could exploit. The Carveth were physically superior to humans in almost every way. They were stronger, faster, and tougher. Their scales could stop most weapons. Their claws could cut through steel. Their reflexes were so fast that most humans could not even see them move. But they had weaknesses. They were proud, sometimes too proud. They believed so strongly in their own superiority that they often underestimated their enemies. And their society was built on rigid rules and traditions that they followed without question. Marcus had used those traditions to force this challenge. Now he needed to find a way to use them to win. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he said. Sarah Park stepped inside, carrying a tray of food. "You need to eat, sir. You have not left this room in 16 hours." Marcus looked up from his screen and managed a tired smile. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Put it anywhere." Sarah set the tray down on a small table but did not leave. Instead, she stood there, her hands clasped behind her back, clearly wanting to say something. "Speak your mind, Sarah," Marcus said. "We are past formality now." "Sir, the crew wants to know your plan. They believe in you, but they are scared. We all are. Vorkith has never lost a fight. How do you intend to beat him? Marcus leaned back in his chair and rubbed his tired eyes. The truth, I do not know yet. I am still looking for an angle. Then why did you challenge him? Sarah asked, her voice cracking slightly. Why throw your life away? Because it was the only move left, Marcus said simply. Our military is broken. Our people are hiding in holes in the ground. In another few months, the Karvith will find them all and kill them. This challenge buys us time. It gives us a chance, however small. But if you die? If I die, nothing changes except that the end comes sooner. Marcus stood and walked to the small window that looked out at the stars. But if I win, everything changes. The Karvith will honor their word. They always do. Earth will be free. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, What are you looking for in those files? Anything that might help. The Karvith are physically superior, but they are not perfect. They have blind spots in their vision directly behind their heads. Their scales are thinner at the joints. They breathe more heavily in high temperatures because their bodies run cold. Can you use any of that? Maybe, but the arena on Corva's station will be a standard environment. No special conditions. And Vorkith knows his own weaknesses better than anyone. He will protect them. Sarah moved to stand beside him at the window. Tell me about the arena, she said. What will the fight be like? Marcus turned back to his screen and brought up images of Corva's station's famous fighting arena. It was a massive circular platform surrounded by rising tiers of seats for spectators. The floor was made of hard stone, with no obstacles or cover of any kind. According to the ancient codes, we will each be allowed one weapon of our choice, Marcus explained. No ranged weapons, no armor, no shields, just two fighters and their weapons until one of them is dead. What weapon will Vorkith use? His claws, probably. The Karvith consider natural weapons to be the purest form of combat, or he might choose a traditional war blade. It is a heavy curved sword that they use for ceremonial fights. And what will you use? Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. I have been thinking about that. The Karvith expect me to choose something similar to their weapons, a sword, an axe, something heavy and brutal, but that would be playing their game. What do you mean? Humanity did not survive this long by fighting the enemy on their terms. We survived because we adapted, we changed, we found new ways to fight. He pulled up another file on his screen. Tell me, Sarah, have you ever heard of a martial art called fencing? Sarah frowned. The sword-fighting sport with the thin blades. Yes, it developed on Earth hundreds of years ago. The weapons used are called rapiers or epis. They are light, fast, and designed for precision strikes rather than raw power. But sir, those weapons would bounce off Karvith scales. They are too light to do any damage. Against the scales, yes, but remember what I said about the joints. The scales are thinner there, and there are gaps in their natural armor at the throat, the armpits, the back of the knees. Marcus pulled up an anatomical diagram of a Karvith body, marking vulnerable points in red. A heavy weapon would be too slow to exploit these weaknesses, but a light, fast blade in skilled hands could slip through the gaps, Sarah finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. Exactly. The Karvith have never faced an opponent who fights like this. Their style is all about power and aggression. They charge in, overwhelm their enemy, and tear them apart. They have never had to defend against someone who dances around them, staying just out of reach, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Can you fight like that? Sarah asked. Marcus nodded slowly. Before I joined the military, I competed in fencing at the university level. I was pretty good, actually. Won a few championships. He laughed quietly. Never thought those skills would matter in a real fight. Turns out I was wrong. But Vorkith is fast too, Sarah pointed out. Faster than any human. In a straight line, yes. In terms of raw reaction speed, yes. But fencing is not about being faster than your opponent. It is about predicting what they will do, reading their movements, setting traps, making them commit to an attack and then exploiting the opening. Marcus turned away from the window and sat back down at his desk. The Carveth have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Their strategies are predictable because they have never needed to change. They are the biggest and strongest predators in the galaxy. Why would they adapt? And humans? Humans are survivors. We adapt to everything. We are not the fastest or the strongest creatures on our own planet, yet we conquered it. We spread to every environment from the frozen poles to the burning deserts. We survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that should have wiped us out. His eyes hardened with determination. And we will survive this too. Sarah looked at him with new respect. You really think you can do this? I think I have a chance, Marcus corrected her. A small chance, but that is more than we had yesterday. He picked up the food she had brought and began to eat. Now I need you to do something for me. Anything, sir? Find me the best fencing sword we have on this ship, and clear the cargo bay. I need space to practice. Sarah smiled for the first time since the challenge had been issued. Yes, sir, right away. She turned to leave but stopped at the door. Commander, thank you. For what? For giving us something to believe in. Win or lose, what you are doing matters. The people on Earth will know that someone stood up for them. That someone fought back. That is worth more than you know. Marcus watched her go, feeling the weight of hope and responsibility settle on his shoulders. In 3 days, he would face the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. The fate of his entire species rested on his skill with a blade. He finished his meal and headed for the cargo bay. There was no more time for research. Now there was only training. Corva's station hung in the void of space like a great metal wheel. It was one of the oldest structures in the galaxy, built thousands of years ago by a species that no longer existed. Now it served as neutral territory where different races could meet, trade, and settle disputes. The arena at the station's center had seen countless battles over the centuries. Champions from 100 worlds had spilled their blood on its stone floor. Today, it would witness something that had never happened before, a human challenging the Carveth overlord. Marcus Cole stood in the preparation room beneath the arena, dressed in simple training clothes. His weapon lay on a table beside him, a slender blade about 3 feet long, with a complex handguard that protected his fingers. It was not an ancient relic or a masterwork of alien technology. It was just a well-made sword, crafted by human hands. Through the walls, he could hear the roar of the crowd above. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy had come to watch, most of them expected to see a quick execution. The Carveth were known throughout space as invincible warriors. The idea of a soft, clawless human defeating their overlord was absurd. But Marcus was not thinking about the crowd. He was not thinking about the odds. He was focused only on his breathing, slow and steady, as he had been taught years ago on the fencing strip. The door to the preparation room opened, and Sarah Park entered. She was wearing a formal uniform, her face pale but composed. "It is time, sir," she said quietly. Marcus nodded and picked up his sword. The weight was familiar in his hand after 3 days of constant practice. His muscles ached. His hands were covered in calluses, but he was as ready as he would ever be. "The entire human population is watching this on broadcasts," Sarah continued. "Everyone in the bunkers, everyone who is left, they are all watching you." "Good," Marcus said. "If I win, they need to see it, and if I lose," he paused. "If I lose, they need to see how a human faces death, without fear, without surrender." Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You will not lose, sir. I believe in you." Marcus smiled at her. "Thank you, Lieutenant. That means more than you know." He walked past her and into the tunnel that led up to the arena. The noise of the crowd grew louder with each step. His heart beat faster, but his hands remained steady. This was what he had trained for, not just in the last 3 days but his entire life. The tunnel opened onto the arena floor and Marcus stepped out into the light. The noise was overwhelming, a wall of sound from thousands of alien throats. He saw Karvath warriors in the stands, their red scales gleaming. He saw beings of a dozen other species, all watching with eager anticipation. And there, on the opposite side of the arena, was Vorkith the Destroyer. The Karvath Overlord was even more terrifying in person than on a screen. He stood over 8 feet tall, his muscles rippling beneath his dark red scales, his yellow eyes fixed on Marcus with predatory intensity. In one massive hand, he carried a traditional Karvath war blade, a curved sword nearly as long as Marcus was tall, its edge honed to deadly sharpness. Vorkith strode toward the center of the arena, and Marcus walked to meet him. They stopped a dozen paces apart, sizing each other up. "So," Vorkith rumbled, his voice cutting through the noise of the crowd, "the little human actually came. I thought you might run away in fear." "Humans do not run," Marcus replied calmly, "as your warriors have learned over the past 5 years. A flicker of anger crossed Vorkith's face. The human resistance had been a thorn in his side, an insult to his pride. "Your people have fought well for prey creatures," he admitted grudgingly. "But all prey falls to the predator eventually. Today, you will fall to me." "We will see," Marcus said. A horn sounded, signaling the beginning of the match. The crowd fell silent, leaning forward in their seats. Vorkith attacked immediately, just as Marcus had expected. The Karvath charged forward with terrifying speed, his massive blade sweeping through the air in a strike that would have cut a normal man in half. But Marcus was not there anymore. He stepped to the side at the last possible moment, letting the blade pass within inches of his body. His own sword flicked out in a quick thrust aimed at the gap between the scales on Vorkith's arm. The Overlord twisted away, but not quite fast enough. The tip of Marcus's blade drew a thin line of dark blood on his forearm. A gasp went through the crowd, first blood to the human. Vorkith looked down at the wound with something like disbelief. It was shallow, barely more than a scratch, but it was the first time anyone had wounded him in combat in over 100 years. "You are quick," Vorkith growled. "Quicker than I expected, but speed alone will not save you." He attacked again, more carefully this time. His blade whirled through the air in a series of complex strikes, each one powerful enough to kill. Marcus danced backward, his feet moving in patterns he had practiced 10,000 times. He parried when he had to, deflecting the heavy blade just enough to send it past him. He dodged when he could, making Vorkith's strength work against him. The Karvath Overlord grew frustrated. He was not used to fighting an opponent who refused to stand and exchange blows. The human kept slipping away, moving in directions Vorkith did not expect, never staying still long enough to be hit. "Stand and fight," Vorkith roared. "Face me like a warrior." "I am fighting like a warrior," Marcus replied, his voice calm despite his racing heart. "A human warrior." He lunged forward in a sudden attack, his blade stabbing toward Vorkith's throat. The Overlord raised his arm to block, and Marcus changed direction mid-thrust, sliding his sword into the gap beneath Vorkith's arm. This time the wound was deeper. Dark blood flowed freely, dripping onto the stone floor of the arena. The crowd had gone completely silent. This was not what they had expected. The human was not just surviving, he was winning. Vorkith pressed one hand against his wound, his yellow eyes burning with rage. "What trickery is this? What coward's weapon do you carry?" "No trickery," Marcus said. "Just skill, something your people have forgotten how to develop. You have been the top predators for so long that you stopped learning, stopped growing, stopped adapting. But humans never stop. We are always learning, always changing. That is how we have survived." Vorkith snarled and attacked with renewed fury. His blade moved faster than before, driven by anger and wounded pride. For a moment, Marcus was forced purely on defense, his arms straining to deflect the powerful blows. Then Vorkith made a mistake. He overextended on a thrust, leaving his left side exposed for just a fraction of a second. Marcus took the opening. His blade slipped between the scales on Vorkith's ribs, sliding deep into the flesh beneath. The Overlord roared in pain and stumbled backward, nearly falling. Marcus pressed forward, but Vorkith recovered faster than expected. The Carveth's tail swept out in a vicious strike, catching Marcus across the legs and knocking him to the ground. Pain exploded through Marcus's body as he hit the stone floor. He rolled desperately to the side as Vorkith's blade crashed down where he had been lying, throwing up chips of stone. He scrambled to his feet, his legs shaking. The blow from Vorkith's tail had done real damage. Something might be broken. But he was still standing, and Vorkith was bleeding from 3 wounds now, his movements growing slower as blood loss began to take its toll. "You fight well, human," Vorkith admitted, breathing heavily. "Better than any creature I have ever faced, but it is not enough. I will not be defeated by prey." "Then stop thinking of me as prey," Marcus replied through gritted teeth, "and start thinking of me as a predator." He raised his sword once more. The fight was not over yet. The arena had become a place of blood and determination. Marcus circled slowly, keeping his weight on his good leg, watching for any sign of weakness in his opponent. Vorkith was wounded, yes, but still terribly dangerous. A wounded predator was often the most deadly. The Carveth Overlord studied him with new respect in his yellow eyes. For the first time in the battle, perhaps for the first time in his life, Vorkith was uncertain. The small human with the strange, thin blade had done what armies could not. He had made the Overlord bleed. "Your species is remarkable," Vorkith said, his voice strained by pain. "I understand now why you have lasted so long against us, but you must know you cannot win. Even if you kill me, another Overlord will take my place. The Carveth will never stop hunting your kind." "That is not what the ancient codes say," Marcus replied. "When I defeat you, your warriors must honor the agreement. Earth becomes off-limits. That is the law of your people." Vorkith laughed, though it sounded more like a cough. "You speak of laws as if they matter. Laws are made by the strong to control the weak. If you kill me, a new Overlord will simply change the laws." "No," Marcus said firmly, "they will not. I have studied your people. I know your history. The ancient codes have stood for 10,000 years because they are the foundation of your entire society. If an Overlord breaks them, the warrior clans will revolt. Civil war will tear your empire apart." Vorkith's eyes narrowed. The human was right, and he knew it. The codes were more than just rules. They were the glue that held Carveth society together. Breaking them would destroy everything his people had built. "You truly are different from our other prey," Vorkith admitted. "You do not just fight with weapons. You fight with knowledge, with strategy, with understanding of things beyond your own small world." "That is what makes us human," Marcus said. "We learn, we adapt, we overcome." Vorkith straightened, ignoring the pain from his wounds. His grip tightened on his war blade. "Then let us end this. One way or another, history will be made today." They came together in a final clash. Vorkith attacked with everything he had left, his blade singing through the air in deadly arcs. Marcus met him with skill born of desperation, his sword deflecting and redirecting the heavier weapon. The sound of metal on metal rang through the silent arena. Neither fighter spoke. Neither held anything back. This was the end, and they both knew it. Vorkith swung a massive overhead strike that would have split Marcus in two. Marcus stepped inside the arc of the blade, too close for the long weapon to hit him. For one moment, he was pressed against the Overlord's chest, looking up into those alien yellow eyes. Then he drove his sword upward, through the thin scales at Vorkith's throat. The Overlord froze. His war blade clattered to the ground. His hands rose slowly to his throat, feeling the blade that had ended his reign. Impossible, Vorkith whispered, dark blood flowing from his mouth. I am the greatest warrior in the galaxy. You were, Marcus said quietly, but this is a new age. Vorkith fell to his knees, then collapsed onto his side. His yellow eyes stared at nothing. The overlord of the Carveth was dead. For a long moment there was no sound in the arena. The thousands of spectators sat in shocked silence, unable to process what they had just witnessed. A human, a small, soft, clawless human, had killed the most powerful warrior in the galaxy. Then from somewhere in the crowd, a voice began to chant. It was a Carveth voice, speaking words in the ancient language of their people. Other voices joined in, more and more, until the arena shook with the sound. Marcus stood over his fallen enemy, his bloodied sword still in his hand, and listened. He did not understand the words, but he understood their meaning. The Carveth were acknowledging his victory. They were honoring him as a true warrior. A massive Carveth warrior descended from the stands and approached Marcus. He was nearly as large as Vorkith had been, with battle scars covering his scales. This was Torak, the commander of the Carveth military and the most likely successor to the throne. Marcus raised his sword, ready to defend himself if necessary. But Torak did not attack. Instead, he stopped a few paces away and dropped to one knee. "Human warrior," Torak said, his deep voice carrying across the arena. "You have defeated our overlord in honorable combat. According to the ancient codes, your terms must be honored. The Carveth will leave your world. Earth will be declared off-limits to all of our people for all time." Marcus lowered his sword. His legs were shaking, and not just from his injuries. The weight of what had just happened was beginning to sink in. He had won. Earth was safe. "Thank you," he managed to say. "That is all I wanted, peace for my people." Torak rose to his feet. "You have earned more than peace, human. You have earned the respect of the Carveth. No species has ever done what you have done today. Your people are not prey. You are warriors. From this day forward, let it be known that humanity stands as equals among the stars." The chanting in the stands changed, becoming rhythmic and powerful. Marcus realized they were chanting a single word over and over again. His translator struggled with it for a moment before providing a meaning. "Champion." They were calling him champion. Sarah Park burst onto the arena floor, tears streaming down her face. She ran to Marcus and caught him as his legs finally gave out. "You did it," she sobbed, holding him up. "You actually did it. Everyone on Earth was watching. They saw everything. You saved us all." Marcus smiled weakly. "I told you, humans do not give up." As medical personnel rushed onto the arena floor to tend to his wounds, Marcus looked up at the vast crowd still chanting his name. Carveth and other aliens, beings who had thought humans were nothing but weak prey, were celebrating his victory. He had entered this arena expecting to die. Instead, he had changed the course of history, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. The age of the Carveth was ending. The age of humanity was about to begin. 1 year had passed since the battle on Corvus Station. In that time, everything had changed. Marcus Cole stood on a balcony overlooking the reconstruction of New Geneva, what had once been one of Earth's destroyed cities. Cranes and construction vehicles moved between the rising buildings, and the sounds of building filled the air. People walked the streets below, not hiding in bunkers anymore, but living their lives in the open, under the sun. The Carveth had kept their word. Within a month of Vorkith's death, every Carveth ship had left Earth's space. They had taken their warriors, their weapons, and their dead with them. The invasion that had lasted 5 years ended not with humanity's extinction, but with their liberation. Marcus still walked with a limp from the injuries he had suffered in the arena. The doctors said it would probably never fully heal. He considered it a small price to pay. The door behind him opened, and Sarah Park stepped onto the balcony. She was no longer a lieutenant. She was now a captain, commanding the Defiant Hope and leading humanity's first true exploration fleet. "The delegation from the Carveth has arrived," she said. "They are waiting in the main hall." Marcus nodded and turned away from the view. "How many of them?" "Just 3. Torak himself came, along with 2 of his advisors." "That is unusual. The new overlord does not normally travel to meet with former enemies." Sarah smiled. "I do not think they see us as enemies anymore." They walked together through the halls of the New Earth Council building. It had been built in just 6 months, using technology that the Carveth had gifted to humanity after the duel. Not as tribute or apology, but as a gesture of respect between warriors. The main hall was a large circular room with a domed ceiling made of glass. Sunlight streamed down onto the gathered delegates, human representatives from every surviving community, and at the center of the room, 3 massive Carveth warriors. Torak turned as Marcus entered. The new Carveth overlord had changed little in the past year. He still bore the scars of countless battles, and his eyes still held the sharp intelligence of a born leader. But there was something different in how he looked at Marcus. Not as prey, not even as an equal. There was something almost like admiration in his gaze. "Champion Cole," Torak said, using the title the Carveth had given him. "It is good to see you again." "Overlord Torak," Marcus replied with a respectful nod. "Welcome to Earth. What brings you to our world?" "I bring a proposal," Torak said, "one that I believe will interest you." He gestured, and one of his advisors stepped forward carrying a data device. "Since your victory, the Carveth Empire has faced challenges. Many of the species we once ruled have begun to resist. They see what humanity did, and they believe they can do the same." "I would say I am sorry," Marcus said, "but I am not. Those species deserve their freedom." Torak let out a rumbling laugh. "I did not come here expecting sympathy. I came here because we have learned something from your victory, champion. We have learned that pure strength is not enough. For 10,000 years, the Carveth ruled through force alone. We never understood that there were other kinds of power." "What other kinds?" "The kind your species showed us. You studied us. You learned about us. You found ways to turn our own traditions against us. And when you faced our greatest warrior, you did not try to match his strength. You used skill and intelligence to defeat him." Torak shook his massive head slowly. "We never considered that a valid approach to combat. Now we understand how foolish we were." Marcus listened carefully, sensing that something important was coming. "The Carveth Empire is changing," Torak continued. "We are transitioning from conquerors to something else. We do not yet know what, but we know we cannot make this transition alone. We need teachers, advisors, partners who can show us a different way." "You want humans to help you?" Marcus asked, surprised. "I want an alliance," Torak said, "between the Carveth and humanity. Your species has something that we lack, the ability to adapt, to learn, to grow beyond what you were. In return, we offer our strength and our resources. Together, we could create something new, something better than either of our peoples could build alone." The human delegates murmured among themselves. Many of them still carried deep hatred for the Carveth. They had lost family members, friends, entire communities to the invasion. The idea of allying with their former enemies was difficult to accept. Marcus raised his hand for silence. "This is not a decision I can make alone," he said. "It belongs to all of humanity. We will need time to discuss it." "I understand," Torak said. "Take whatever time you need. But while you discuss, consider this. There are many threats in the galaxy beyond the Carveth, dangers that even we fear. Your species is remarkable, but you are still few in number and weak in technology. An alliance with us would give you protection while you grow stronger." "What kind of threats?" Sarah asked. Torak's expression grew dark. "There are things in the deep reaches of space that make the Carveth look like children, ancient powers that have slumbered for millions of years. Some of them are beginning to wake. When they do, the galaxy will need all the warriors it can find." A chill ran through the room. Even Marcus, who had faced the most terrifying predator in known space, felt a flutter of fear. "We will give you our answer within 1 month," Marcus said finally. "Whatever we decide, I want you to know that I respect what you are trying to do. It takes courage to change, especially for a species as old as yours." Torek bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect that no Carveth had ever shown to another species before. "Courage is something I learned from you, champion. 1 year ago, you stood before Vorkith the Destroyer with nothing but a thin blade and your will to fight. You taught us that true courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear." The meeting ended, and the Carveth delegation departed, but their proposal lingered in the minds of everyone present. That evening, Marcus stood once again on the balcony, watching the sun set over the rebuilding city. Sarah joined him, 2 glasses of wine in her hands. "What do you think we should do?" she asked, handing him a glass. Marcus took a sip before answering. "I think we should accept. The Carveth are not the same enemy we fought a year ago. Torek is genuinely trying to change his people, and if what he said about ancient threats is true, we will need allies. Many people will be angry. They have not forgiven the Carveth for what they did. They have every right to be angry, but holding on to hatred will not bring back those we lost. It will only hold us back from the future." Marcus gazed at the horizon, where the first stars were appearing. Humanity has always been about looking forward, about building something better than what came before. If we let hatred define us, we become no different from the Carveth at their worst. Sarah nodded slowly. "You have changed too, you know. When I first met you, you were just a military commander fighting a losing war. Now you are something more." "What am I now?" "A symbol, a hero, the person who showed the entire galaxy what humanity is capable of," she smiled. "Whether you like it or not, you represent all of us now." Marcus laughed softly. "I never wanted to be a hero, I just wanted to save our people." "That is exactly what makes you one." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars multiply across the darkening sky. Out there, somewhere, ancient powers were stirring. New challenges waited. New enemies would arise. But humanity was no longer alone, and humanity no longer cowered in fear. A year ago, they had been prey, marked for extinction by the most powerful predators in the galaxy. Now they were rising to take their place among the stars as equals, as warriors, as champions. The universe had underestimated humanity. It had seen them as weak, as victims, as prey. But humans had proven that courage was worth more than claws, that intelligence was worth more than strength, and that the will to fight could overcome any odds. Fear had been transformed into awe, not just for the Carveth, but for every species in the galaxy. They had watched a single human stand against a monster and win. They had seen what humanity could do when pushed to the brink. And they would never forget it. Marcus Cole raised his glass toward the stars. "To the future," he said. Sarah raised hers to meet it, to humanity. Somewhere above them, the defiant hope orbited in the darkness, ready to carry humanity's children to new worlds and new adventures. The ship that had once been their last hope was now the first of many, the beginning of a fleet that would spread across the galaxy. Earth's hero had confronted the predator overlord. He had won not through strength or savagery, but through the uniquely human qualities of courage, intelligence, and determination. And in doing so, he had opened the door to a future brighter than anyone had dared to dream. The age of fear was over. The age of humanity had begun.